Practicing cinematography all by yourself means that you have to work with your limitations. Working with your limitations is a huge part of filmmaking, especially on low or no budget productions. And yes, it is nice to have at least one other person in your crew, someone who can be in front of the camera, making it easier for you to focus all your energy on setting up those beautiful shots. But sometimes people are busy, and that creative itch ain't going nowhere. In this video, I'm gonna show you how I scratched my itch, creating a, dare I say it, cinematic story. Shot, acted, narrated, and edited all by myself. Hi, I'm Alex. I create to live, and I live to create. If you haven't already seen my latest creation, you must be living under a rock. Everyone's talking about it, but on the off chance you missed it, check it out. I call it Londoner. The film obviously revolves around me and my life in this big city of promises, where sunny days are a rare but very welcome phenomenon. A self-written and narrated monologue inspired by my own true thoughts and feelings on the life that I live.
Just break free, get a real job. You're getting too old, this isn't safe, the clock is ticking.
In all honesty, my process for making this film was entirely improvised. I knew that I was going to spend all day filming myself in various locations. I didn't know what the story was going to be.
Who needs an alarm clock when you have the sun setting fire to your dreams?
Before I tell you how the story eventually unfolded, I want to share what kit I used and why. I wanted to be on the move, shoot many different locations in the short time period of around 6 to 8 hours. This goal set my limitations. My first decision was to work with natural light sources, meaning that I had no desire to carry a bunch of heavy lights around London. This limitation is also my biggest challenge. Natural light sources can be a huge ally to you as a cinematographer. Knowing how to work with available light that you don't have to bring on set is something every cinematographer and videographers need to be aware of. So what did I bring? The Sony FX3 Cinemaline camera, a beast in a small body, just like me. A spacious SD card. Lenses, I ended up mostly using the 20mm for big wides and the 28 to 75mm for everything in between. For the shots at home, I also used a 35mm and a 105mm macro lens. A small and compact tripod, the Rode Wireless Go 2 microphones, if I wanted to record some speech, a fully charged phone with the Creators app downloaded, and probably most important of all, a variable ND filter. How I did it. If you're a creative person like me who enjoys camera work, you're always scouting locations and seeing potential to create beautiful shots in your mind's eye. This is why I decided to let my creative intuition guide where and what I ended up shooting. In a big, beautiful city like London, there are a lot of incredible locations to pick and choose from. Only problem is, tourists. There are people literally everywhere. So instead of people being an issue for my story, I decided they could be an opportunity. Free extras, if you will. Instead of avoiding people entering my shots, I welcomed it. I wanted it. Working with my limitations again freed me from the headache of avoiding the unavoidable. How I use my minimalist kit. The easiest way to get nice cinematic looking shots of yourself is by using a tripod. Setting up a nice still frame that you like, hitting record and running into shot to do some Oscar-worthy acting.
Who needs
The hard part is placing yourself perfectly within that frame every time. You shoot, check the playback, set markers, shoot again, etc. But this would be very time consuming. If you're close enough to your camera, maybe the tiny flip screen will be enough to get that perfect placement. But this would be very limiting. If you're a bit further away from the camera, perhaps a flipped monitor on your hot shoe mount can give you a better field of view. Unless you're shooting the back of your head, or something, then it gets a bit harder. A tool I found to be incredibly useful when shooting myself for this project was the Creators app. This application literally lets your smartphone serve as a wireless monitor for your camera. And not only is it a monitor, but it also lets you control everything. White balance, ISO, shutter speed, aperture, and best of all, focus. I was blown away by this feature. The Creators app lets you use touch focus on your phone screen, and then you can switch into manual focus, effectively giving you full control at a distance. This is a game changer for lonely cinematographers and self-shooters all across the globe. So needless to say, this feature became a big part of my process. The only downside being that you can't go far away from your camera, not really far at all, and the connection feed does lag quite a bit, but very helpful nonetheless, just for framing your shot. The other essential tool I used was my variable ND filter. A cinematographer's job is essentially to control the light that enters your camera sensor. Without an ND filter, I would have to control the light I let in by adjusting my aperture, because my shutter speed is staying fixed at either 150 or 1/100, depending on if I'm shooting at 25 frames per second or 50 frames per second. I shoot in S-Log3, a picture profile that gives me the most dynamic range later in the color grading process, and ultimately the most, I'll say it again, cinematic result, in my opinion. And when you shoot in S-Log3, your ISO becomes fixed at either 800 or 12,800. And the aperture value you use for your shot should not be used to expose correctly. It should be used as a creative choice. If I'm shooting wide open at f1.8, yes, I'll be letting in a lot more light than if I was shooting at f5.6, but the aperture you choose changes the depth of field between your subject and your background, which is an important storytelling tool. A variable ND filter lets you decrease light that's hitting your sensor without changing your image. So a very important piece of kit to bring on any shoot, but especially outside on a sunny day, if you want to get those good shots. How the story developed. I shot a series of frames of myself and my surroundings. One location led to another, guided by my unconditional trust in my intuition. Different potential stories started to unfold in my mind. The next day, I took a look at the footage and put together an edit on top of a soundtrack. A story started to form, but I felt it could be stronger. I decided that there needed to be a voiceover performing some kind of monologue over the images. I ran off to Costa, got my usual order of a mocha, and started writing a monologue, piecing together the material, breathing new life into the film. The new monologue asked for a bit of re-editing, and suddenly I had a self-created, self-shot, edited, written, narrated, cinematic masterpiece. To sum up what this process has reminded me of and taught me, just do it! Sometimes planning and overthinking can only get in your way, when all you want to do is create. There are a lot of excuses not to do it, perfection being one of the biggest. But nothing's perfect, and you're never going to improve your skills by making excuses. Improvise until your story unfolds. Trust your creative intuition. It loves when you do. Limitations are opportunities in disguise. You can quote me on that. Save yourself the headache of avoiding the unavoidable. Challenge yourself. Don't just get the easy shots. I looked like a crazy self-obsessed vlogger with my tripod mounted to my chest, shooting myself, walking around, acting like nobody's business. It was uncomfortable to say the least, but I got some unique shots out of it. And in my book, that's always worth it. As long as health and safety is, whatever. Be the light keeper to your camera sensor. It's what being a cinematographer is all about. Smartphone monitoring is a game changer for lonely cinematographers. I swear to God, I am not sponsored by the Creators app. I'm just buzzing about it because I just discovered these new functions, which is maybe a bit embarrassing, but we're constantly learning. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't seen any of my work already, this is my website, this is my Instagram, and that is my YouTube. If you want to see the video I've been talking about, which everyone's seen already, I'll put the link in the description, and it'll probably pop up at the end of this video. All right, peace.